morning. This is Dalia Romero, Spanish interpreter on the line, already sworn in.
Good morning, Ms. Romero. Ms. Romero, we have Mr. Menjivar Mejia. Case number is 2020 CF 1339. He is at the jail facility. You'll be doing the interpreting over the intercom system.
Thank you, Your Honor. Muy buenos días, señor Mejía. ¿Puede escuchar la intérprete? Sí. He can hear the interpreter, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Good morning, sir. We're going to place you under oath.
Buenos días, señor. Levante su mano derecha para prestar juramento.
Please raise your right hand.
Levante su mano derecha, por favor.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to enter into this case is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
¿Usted jura o afirma que el testimonio que va a presentar en este caso es la verdad, toda la verdad y nada más que la verdad? Sí. Yes.
Mr. Menjivar Mejia, I have two plea forms before the court. One is in English and one is in Spanish. They reflect a plea of guilty to, as charged, to one count of conspiracy to commit robbery with a deadly weapon. Ms. Romero?
Yes, one moment, Your Honor. Señor Menjivar Mejía, aquí en mi mano tengo dos formularios de declaración. Uno está escrito en español y el otro es inglés. Y hablan de una declaración asentando una declaración de culpable según se le ha acusado en el caso de conspiración para cometer un robo con un arma mortal.
The document in Spanish has a signature at the end of the document over the word defendant and has a set of initials after each of the 26 paragraphs.
El documento que está escrito en español tiene una firma en la última página sobre la línea que dice acusado, al igual que tiene iniciales en todas las 26 páginas. Al lado de cada párrafo tiene sus iniciales.
Did you have a chance to initial and sign this document?
Usted tuvo la oportunidad de ponerle las iniciales a este documento y firmar este documento.
If you responded, we didn't hear you.
Si contestó, no le escuchamos. Yes.
For your information, your attorney, Mr. Hobson, is present by video, and I am able to see him. I'm going to turn my computer screen to allow him to be able to view you as this plea continues.
Su abogado, el señor Hobson, está aquí con nosotros por medio de video y yo le voy a dar vuelta a la computadora para que él pueda verlo a usted en la pantalla. Okay.
I have to rejoin the Teams link as my computer became disconnected.
Un momento, se le desconectó el enlace al juez.
Mr. Hobson, Ms. Cassie, can you hear me again?
Señor Hobson, señor Cassie, ¿ustedes me pueden oír? Sí.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hobson. I'll
Eso, señoría.
aim the computer over so you may see your client.
Señor Hobson, le he dado vuelta a la computadora, cosa que usted pueda ver a su cliente.
Yes, Your Honor, I can see the jail court.
Sí, señoría, puedo ver.
Mr. Menjivar Mejia, the document indicates that you wish to enter a plea.
Señor Menjivar Mejías, este documento indica que usted quiere asentar una declaración.
That plea is to a second-degree felony allegation.
Esta declaración es un delito grave en segundo grado.
All second-degree felony allegations are punishable by a maximum sentence of up to 15 years in prison, 15 years of supervised probation, or a $10,000 fine.
Todos los delitos graves llevan una pena máxima, una posible pena máxima de hasta 15 años en prisión, 15 años de libertad vigilada o probatoria y una multa de hasta $10,000.
Do you understand that is the maximum sentence for this type of charge?
Ustedes entienden que esa es la pena máxima que pudiera recibir por este tipo de caso. Yes.
Do you understand that you have a right to have a jury trial as to this allegation?
Usted entiende que tiene el derecho de que se celebre un juicio por jurado en este caso.
At the jury trial, the state of Florida would have to prove to a jury beyond and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt the elements of any offense you were charged with.
En un juicio por jurado, la Fiscalía tiene la responsabilidad de comprobar la acusación más allá de toda duda razonable, poder comprobar la evidencia que hay en su contra. ¿Entiende esto? Yes.
At that trial, Mr. Hobson would have been present with you.
En ese juicio, el señor Hobson hubiera podido estar presente con usted.
He would have talked to the witnesses and examined the evidence against you.
Él pudo haber hablado con los testigos y pudo haber examinado, chequeado las pruebas en su contra.
You could have presented your own witnesses and your own evidence.
Usted hubiera podido presentar sus propios testigos y su propia evidencia.
If witnesses had not wanted to come to court, you could have asked me to subpoena them to court.
Si los testigos no hubieran querido venir a la corte, usted me pudo haber pedido a mí que yo emita un mandato judicial para que se presenten.
You could have testified at your trial, or you could have remained silent, and that would have been your decision.
Usted en un juicio pudiera testificar o pudiera guardar silencio, y esa sería su decisión.
Your jury would have been instructed not to consider your decision to remain silent in any way in rendering a verdict.
A su jurado se le hubiera dicho que no pueden tomar en su contra el hecho de que usted guarde silencio cuando rindan un veredicto.
You understand if I accept your plea of guilty, you will be giving up your trial rights?
Usted entiende que si yo acepto su declaración de culpable, usted va a estar renunciando a su derecho de apelación.
The reason being, I will go along with the state's offer of resolution and we will not be having a trial.
La razón por esto es que yo voy a estar aceptando la oferta de resolución de la Fiscalía y no se va a celebrar un juicio.
Do you understand your trial rights as I have explained?
¿Usted entiende los derechos que tiene de llevar el caso a juicio según se los he explicado? Yes.
Is anyone forcing you or pressuring you into making this decision?
¿Alguien le está forzando, obligando, poniendo a usted algún tipo de presión en cambio de su declaración o decisión? No.
Has anyone made you any promises other than what is written on your plea form?
¿Alguien le ha prometido algo a usted aparte de lo que está escrito en este formulario de declaración? No.
Are you under the influence of any alcohol, any drugs, or any mental issues that cause you not to understand the decision that you're making?
¿Está usted bajo los efectos de algún tipo de drogas, alcohol o alguna condición de salud mental que afecte la posibilidad de usted entender lo que está pasando aquí en el día de hoy? No.
Do you understand if you are not a United States citizen, entry of this plea would subject you to deportation?
Usted entiende que si usted no es ciudadano de los Estados Unidos, por el hecho de que usted asienta esta declaración aquí en el día de hoy, esto le pudiera causar la deportación. ¿Entiende esto, señor? Yes.
Do you also understand that if you ever before have been convicted of a sexually violent or sexually motivated offense, entry of this plea could cause you to be involuntarily civilly committed?
Usted entiende que si alguna vez anteriormente o en el pasado usted ha sido condenado de un delito de motivación sexual, al final de este caso, por este caso usted pudiera quedar detenido indefinidamente. ¿Entiende eso? Yes.
Mr. Hobson, does the defense stipulate to a factual basis for purposes of the plea?
Señor Hobson, la defensa estipula los hechos ocurridos para esta declaración. Un
Can you
momento.
repeat the question, Your Honor?
Yes, Mr. Hobson, I was asking if the defense stipulates to a factual basis so I may accept the plea.
Yes, sir.
La defensa estipula los hechos. Sí, su señoría.
The court finds Mr. Menivar Mejia to be alert and intelligent.
El juez halla que el señor Menivar Mejía está alerta, es inteligente.
The court finds that it has a factual basis with which the court can accept this plea.
El juez halla que hay causas que respaldan la acusación, lo cual el juez puede aceptar su declaración.
Mr. Menivar Mejia has indicated that he is entering this plea of his own free will.
El señor Menivar Mejías ha indicado que él está asentando esta declaración de su libre albedrío.
Mr. Menivar Mejia, are you satisfied with the services of your attorney, Mr. Hobson?
Señor Menivar Mejías, ¿usted está satisfecho con la representación de su abogado, el señor Hobson? Yes.
Seems like he's done a significant amount of work for you.
Parece que él ha hecho una cantidad de trabajo por usted.
Court will accept your plea of guilty to count 1, conspiracy to commit robbery with a deadly weapon.
El juez acepta su declaración de culpable en la primera causa, que es conspiración para cometer un robo a mano armada con un arma mortal.
The court will sentence you to 3 years in the Department of Corrections.
El juez le sentencia a 3 años en el Departamento de Correcciones.
You will get credit for the time that you have already served in the jail.
287 days.
El juez le da crédito por el tiempo que ya ha cumplido, que son 287 días. Okay.
There will be court costs that you will owe.
Va a deber las costas judiciales,
$418 of court costs, $100 cost of prosecution, $100 contract attorney lien, for a total of $618.
Queda debiendo $418 de las costas judiciales, $100 costas procesales, $100 por la representación del abogado, un total de $618.
You will owe those costs to the clerk of the court collection program within a period of 4 years.
Este dinero usted queda debiéndolo al departamento del actuario de la corte y tiene 4 años para pagarlos.
Mr. Baird, good morning. Announcement as to count 2.
Yes, Your Honor. As to count 2, in exchange for the defendant's plea to count 1, the state does enter a null pros. I am e-filing that document right now.
El abogado fiscal ha anunciado que en parte del acuerdo de declaración, ellos están desestimando la segunda causa y están archivando esos documentos al momento.
Mr. Menivar Mejia, the state has followed through with its part of the bargain and dismissed count 2.
Señor Menivar Mejías, el fiscal ha cumplido con su acuerdo y han desestimado la segunda causa. Okay.
You will have 30 days from today's date to appeal the judgment and sentence in this case.
Usted tiene 30 días de la fecha de hoy para apelar por escrito la sentencia que se le ha impuesto.
If you wish to appeal, you must do so in writing.
Si usted desea apelar, tiene 30 días para hacerlo por escrito.
If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed for you.
Y si no pudiera pagar por un abogado, uno se le puede designar para que le represente en una apelación.
Mr. Baird, anything further on behalf of the state?
¿Alguna otra cosa de parte de la Fiscalía?
Unless, I don't know if Ms. Causey already put on the record, there is no restitution in this case and the victims did not wish to be present.
No sé si el señor Cancilla dijo en actas que no hay que pagar restitución y la víctima no quería estar presente aquí.
Mr. Hobson, anything further from the defense?
Yes, sir, and we've received a new score sheet and we have no objection.
I'm sorry, would you repeat that?
We have the new score sheet, Judge. We have no objection.
And I'm sorry, Your Honor, the interpreter did not understand that.
Mr. Hobson indicated that the defense has no objection to the amended score sheet.
Bien, su abogado, el señor Hobson, ha dicho que no se opone a la página de puntuaje que se ha presentado y se ha enmendado.
Madam Clerk, anything further?
¿Alguna otra cosa de la actuaria, de la secretaria?
The response was no.
No. Bien.
That will conclude our plea and sentencing hearing.
Eso concluye esta declaración y sentencia, señor. Eso es todo.
You will be transported to the Department of Corrections to serve the remainder of your sentence.
Se le va a enviar a transportar al Departamento de Correcciones para que continúe a cumplir con su sentencia.
Madam Interpreter, thank you for your help.
You're welcome, Your Honor. Have a great day.
You as well.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Mr. Hobson, thanks for your patience. Mr. Barrett, I know that you were in another courtroom, and thanks to Ms. Kazi for pinch hitting for you while you were.
Thank you, Your Honor, and Mr. Hobson,
Thank you,
and
Your
all
Honor.
parties for,
That's all I
I
have.
apologize for that.
It happens,
Thank you.
Mr. Barrett. I understand. All right. Next matter that I have is a 10:45 with Mr. Jackson, and who is the Assistant State Attorney?
Good morning, Your Honor. That's me.
Good morning.
I'll swear for the record on behalf of the state of Florida.
Let's see. This would be 2021 CF 121. Mr. Jackson, are you with us?
I am.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Good morning.
Good morning. All right, we are here on Mr. Torres Ayala's case. Is Mr. Torres Ayala in our jail?
Yes, he is.
All right, thanks. All right, Mr. Jackson, for the record, I'm looking at Mr. Torres Ayala. He has walked up to the podium at the jail facility. Mr. Torres Ayala, do you need the assistance of an interpreter?
Yes, please.
I'm having a difficult time hearing you. You need to get really close to that microphone.
Yes, please.
Good morning, Your Honor. For the record, Jose Sandra, certified Spanish interpreter, previously sworn in, ready to proceed.
Good morning, Mr. Interpreter. We have Mr. Torres Ayala at the jail facility. You'll be interpreting over the intercom system. The case number is 2021 CF 121.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Good morning, sir. We're going to place you under oath.
Buenos días, señor. ¿Va usted a tomar juramento?
Please raise your right hand.
Por favor, levante la mano derecha.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to enter into this case is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Usted jura y afirma que el testimonio que dará concernientes a esta causa será la verdad, toda la verdad y nada más que la verdad, según Dios?
Sí.
Yes.
All right. The court has been presented with an unopposed motion to set bond in this case.
Este tribunal se le ha presentado una solicitud de fijar una fianza sin ninguna protesta ni objeción por las partes.
Sí.
Yes.
State.
Fiscalía.
Yes, Your Honor, that's correct. The defendant is seeking a bond, and I discussed his request with his attorney, Mr. Jackson, and the stipulations that the state would be seeking that the defendant agreed to before the state would agree to any type of bond in this matter. Of course, that is dependent upon the court agreeing as well. But the conditions that the state is imposing along with the monetary amount appear to be appropriate to the state under the circumstances of this case.
Sí, su señoría, hemos hablado con el licenciado representando al acusado y en su solicitud de que se fije en la fianza y esas condiciones, el cual la fiscalía estaría de acuerdo, tanto monetarias como condiciones que tiene que cumplir, siempre y cuando su señoría también esté de acuerdo.
Is that based on a review of the facts and Mr. Torres Ayala's participation in the allegations?
That's correct, Your Honor. It includes the evidence that the state has available to it, along with a review of the defendant's criminal record. The defendant actually has no prior arrest history. This is his first arrest, and the state is also aware that the defendant was lawfully in possession of his firearm.
Eso sí, su señoría, eso después de que la fiscalía ha revisado todas las pruebas que tenemos y también de que se ha comentado el asunto con el acusado y su licenciado, también que el señor no tiene antecedentes penales. Este es su primer arresto y la fiscalía reconoce que él tenía permiso para portar legalmente la arma.
Was the victim's family given an opportunity to participate in the hearing?
¿La familia de la víctima se le dio la oportunidad de participar en la audiencia?
Your Honor, the identified victim's parents are present in the courtroom this morning. I don't know if they want to address the court at all. We've discussed that previously, but may I check with them to see if they wanted to offer any statement?
Of course.
Su señoría, los padres de la supuesta víctima están presentes en la sala hoy y con su permiso voy a pedirles si desean expresar su opinión delante de su señoría.
And Your Honor, the witness is Teresa Boucher. I will have her announce her name for the record in just a moment, but for the court's benefit, this is the identified victim's mother.
Su señoría, la señora Teresa Boucher, que es la madre de la supuesta víctima.
Ms. Boucher, do you need the assistance of the interpreter?
I do not.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Do we need to swear in our witness?
Yes, Your Honor.
Let's swear in
Please raise your right hand.
Ms. Boucher.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to enter into this case is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Se le ha tomado juramento a la testigo.
And the state of Florida, based on a review of the case, is inclined to stipulate to a bond. Do you wish to give the court some additional information in making that determination?
Señora, la Fiscalía de Florida, después de revisar el expediente, está de acuerdo en fijar una fianza. ¿Usted quiere dar alguna declaración con ese respecto?
Yes.
When you're ready, ma'am.
Sí.
I had written something that I didn't bring with me because I didn't think I was going to be allowed to speak. But my name is Teresa Boucher. My son was Giovanni Boucher. Your Honor, I have lived in this community since 1972. We own a small business. I have worked for Universal Studios for over 20 years.
Let me ask you to pause occasionally so your statements can be interpreted.
Su señoría, yo tenía una declaración pero escrita, pero no lo he traído porque creía que no se le iba a permitir. Yo soy Teresa Boucher, mi hijo es la víctima. Hemos vivido en esta comunidad desde 1972. Poseemos un pequeño negocio. He trabajado para los estudios universales para más de 20 años.
Ultimately, I'm here to ask you to deny bond. My son was killed on January 1st, and the defendant is the person that was witnessed to kill my son. And both my husband and I were present at the shooting. We are afraid that this gentleman will not stay in town as he is supposed to. There is no way to know where he is at any time, even though the stipulations in the motion say that he is to stay away from my family, my home, our business.
Let me ask you to pause.
Su señoría, el día 1 de enero, mi hijo cayó víctima de los tiros del acusado. Mi esposo y yo estábamos presentes en el momento del tiroteo. Nosotros tememos que si se fija una fianza, este señor no cumplirá con quedarse aquí en la ciudad y al mismo tiempo, pues no obedecerá las normas de mantenerse alejado de mi familia, de mi residencia y de mi negocio.
This gentleman followed my son home in November prior to this incident, and I feel that this was something that may have been premeditated on his part. And I don't want to see him on the streets. I don't want him to be able to have that privilege, to be able to say that he literally got away with murder.
Su señoría, en el mes de noviembre, este señor siguió a mi hijo antes del incidente, él siguió a mi hijo a su casa. Yo no quiero ver a este señor en las calles, no quiero que él tenga el beneficio de ir por ahí diciendo que él pudo superar una acusación de asesinato.
This could have certainly been handled a completely different way. He did not have to shoot my son. He hid for days before they were able to obtain him. He hid the weapon. He erased all of his social media. I believe that he changed what he looked like as far as his hair, all in an effort to hide.
Este asunto se pudiera manejar de otra manera, mucho mejor para todos. Él no tenía la necesidad de dispararle a mi hijo. Él se escondió después del incidente durante días, borró todas sus huellas, se borró de todo lo que son las redes sociales, cambió el aspecto de su pelo con el propósito de seguir escondido de las autoridades.
So, Your Honor, I ask you if there is any possibility that you could deny this man's request for bond, that you do so.
Así que, su señoría, yo le pido a usted respetuosamente si hay alguna posibilidad que usted le niegue cualquier fianza a este señor.
Thank you, ma'am.
Gracias, señora.
Any additional witnesses on behalf of the state?
¿Algún testigo más por parte de la fiscalía?
I was going to inquire from the named victim's father. If the court doesn't mind giving me one moment.
Of course.
Con la venia, su señoría, vamos a preguntarle al padre de la víctima si desea expresarse. Claro que sí.
Your Honor, for the court's benefit, Felix Boche, who is the decedent's father, is present. He has expressed that his wife has spoken for him.
Su señoría, para que conste en acta, el señor Félix Boucher está presente en la sala y él ha dicho que ya su esposa ha expresado su manera de pensar.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson, good morning. Does the defense have any witnesses or evidence they wish to present for the court's consideration?
Licenciado Jackson, buenos días. ¿Hay algún testigo o pruebas que este tribunal debería de saber para estipular su causa?
Your Honor, it was my understanding that this was an unopposed motion. Under the circumstances, with one of the family members expressing, their objection to the motion itself and to the bond, I don't know if it would be instructive for the court for me to take some testimony from Mr. Torres Ayala at this point.
Su señoría, era mi entender que esta esta solicitud nuestra estaba sin ningún tipo de objeción, salvo que un miembro de la familia iba a emitir una declaración oponiéndose a la solicitud y a la fijación de fianza. No sé, sería nuestro mejor interés que el señor Torres Ayala declarara.
Mr. Jackson, I'm certainly required to balance the interests of the victims pursuant to the Victim Rights Statute as well as the due process rights of your client. I can offer some alternatives. Mr. Jackson, you are welcome to present testimony today, or if you are not anticipating presenting testimony, the court would be happy to reset or bifurcate this hearing to give you an opportunity to talk to your client prior to any testimony.
Licenciado Jackson, estamos aquí haciendo todo según ley, que la víctima pueda expresar su opinión, igual como su cliente puede testificar si usted lo deseara. Eso es el proceso judicial. Estoy más que contento de darle a usted un aplazamiento para ver si su cliente quiere expresarse, testificar en otro día, si usted lo desea, pero ahí es donde queda todo en este momento.
No, that's fine, Your Honor. We can go ahead if I could take some testimony from Mr. Torres Ayala.
No, su señoría, podemos seguir adelante si usted me permite algún testimonio del señor Torres Ayala.
Mr. Jackson, I don't know if you have video capability. I have pointed my computer at the jail video screen.
Licenciado Jackson, yo no sé si usted lo puede ver por pantalla. Yo he puesto mi computadora mirando hacia su pantalla.
Yes, I can see him from my screen. Yes.
Sí, su señoría, lo puedo ver desde mi pantalla.
Mr. Jackson, when you are ready.
Adelante, licenciado Jackson.
Can you tell us your full name for the record, sir?
Señor, ¿podría decir su nombre completo para que conste en acta?
Yochoa José Torres Ayala.
¿Puede repetir más despacio, por favor?
Yochoa José Torres Ayala.
José Torres Ayala.
All right, and if the court releases you on bond, where will you be residing or living?
Señor, si este tribunal le pone usted en libertad con una fianza, ¿dónde viviría usted? ¿Dónde estaría residiendo?
En Orlando, en casa de mis padres.
In Orlando, in my parents' home.
Okay. Does anybody else live there other than your parents?
Además de sus padres, ¿alguien más vive en esa casa?
Mi pareja.
My significant other.
Okay. Do you have any children that you provide for?
¿Usted tiene niños menores, el cual mantiene económicamente?
Sí.
Yes.
What are their ages and how many of them are there?
¿Cuántos niños menores son y cuáles son sus edades?
Tengo una niña de 3 años y un niño de 2 años.
I have a 3-year-old girl and a 2-year-old boy.
Okay. And do you have the opportunity to be employed if you are released on bond?
Y si usted es puesto en libertad bajo fianza, ¿usted tiene la posibilidad de trabajar?
Si se me permite, sí.
If I'm allowed to work, yes.
And where would that be? Doing what type of work?
¿Y dónde sería ese empleo y a qué se dedicaría usted?
Puede ser en construcción o puede ser en un lugar de comida rápida.
Well, it could be, I could work on a construction site or in some type of fast food restaurant.
Okay. Do you have a history of working construction and doing that type of work?
Señor, ¿usted tiene experiencia y historial en trabajar en construcción y en ese tipo de trabajo?
Sí,
Yes.
How long have you been a resident of, we'll say, Central Florida, Orlando, Kissimmee?
Bueno, señor, vamos a ver, ¿durante cuánto tiempo lleva siendo usted residente de, digamos, el centro de Florida, la zona de Orlando o Kissimmee?
entre 5 a 6 años.
5 to 6 years.
Okay. So if the court set a bond in this case, do you think that you could make a bond of $50,000 or higher?
Señor, si este tribunal fija una fianza, ¿usted cree que podría pagar una fianza, digamos, de 50,000 o más elevado incluso que eso?
Sí,
Yes.
Do you promise as a condition of your bond not to have any contact directly or indirectly with Felix Bosch or Teresa Bosch?
Usted promete, como una de las condiciones de su puesta en libertad bajo fianza, de no tener ningún tipo de contacto con Félix Boucher y Teresa Boucher de ninguna manera.
prometo que no.
I promise I will not have any.
Do you promise not to have any contact directly or indirectly with Jamie, I think I'm pronouncing this correctly, Mojica Hernandez?
Usted promete que no tendrá ningún tipo de contacto, y creo que lo estoy pronunciando bien, con Jaime Mujica Hernández.
Prometo que no.
I promise I will not.
Do you promise not to have any contact directly or indirectly with Christina Michelle Cantwell?
Usted promete que no tendrá ningún tipo de contacto, ni directa ni indirectamente, con Cristina Michelle. Your Honor, I apologize. This is the interpreter. May I have the last name again of that person?
Yes, Christina Michelle Cantwell.
Con la señorita Cristina Michelle Cantwell.
Prometo que no.
I promise I will not have any contact.
Do you promise as a condition of your pretrial release not to enter the premises of the Chapel Trace apartment complex located on Goldenrod Road in Orlando?
Usted promete, como una de las condiciones de su puesta en libertad, que no accederá a la propiedad de Chapel Apartments, que está situado en Goldenrod Road en Orlando.
Prometo que no.
I promise I will not.
Do you promise not to go within 1,000 feet of Blue Sky Tinting located at 214 North Goldenrod Road, Orlando, Florida, 32807?
Usted promete que si es puesto en libertad no se acercará a una distancia mínima de 1,000 pies de Blue Sky Tinting, que está situado en el 214 de North Goldenrod Road en Orlando, Florida, 32807.
Prometo que no.
I promise I will not go.
Okay. Do you understand that as a condition of your pretrial release, should you be released, you are not to leave Orange County, Florida without the court's permission?
Usted promete, como una de las condiciones de puesta en libertad, si es que sale, que no podrá salir del condado de Orange del estado de Florida, ¿entiende?
Sí, entiendo.
Yes, I understand.
Do you promise to surrender your passport to the clerk of court within 24 hours of your release from jail, or file an affidavit with the court asserting that you don't have a passport?
Usted promete que si es puesto en libertad, a las 24 horas de ser puesto en libertad, usted entregará su pasaporte en la secretaría del tribunal o una declaración jurada diciendo que no dispone o que no tiene pasaporte.
Sí, lo haré.
Yes, I will.
Do you understand that you are not to possess any firearms if you are placed on pretrial release and released from custody?
Usted entiende que si es puesto en libertad no podrá poseer ni tener tenencia de arma de ningún tipo. Eso sería una de las condiciones de su puesta en libertad. ¿Entiende esto, señor?
Sí, entiendo.
Yes, I understand.
Do you own any firearms?
Señor, ¿es usted dueño de armas de fuego?
No.
No.
Okay. Do you promise to make yourself available at the Orange County Sheriff's Office, should you be released, within 48 hours of your release, to have your physical measurements taken, including your height and weight?
Usted promete, si es que es puesto en libertad, antes de 48 horas de su puesta en libertad, se presenta usted en la oficina del sheriff del condado de Orange para que le tomen sus medidas físicas, tanto la altura como el peso.
Sí.
Yes.
Do you promise to adhere to any other conditions that this court may set as a condition of your pretrial release other than what I've described?
Usted promete que cumplirá cualquier tipo de condición que este tribunal le imponga para su puesta en libertad, además de todas las condiciones de que hemos hablado antes. ¿Usted promete?
Sí, señor.
Yes, sir.
And that potentially could include a monitor of some sort or anything else that the court could impose legally that may make them feel more comfortable for you to be released under the circumstances. Are you agreeable to that?
Eso también entra dentro de un tipo de monitor electrónico que le imponga este tribunal para que tengan la seguridad de que usted estará siempre localizado. ¿Está usted de acuerdo con esto?
Sí, no hay problema.
Yes, I have no problem.
Do you understand that if you violate any of the conditions that I just described or any other conditions set by the court, that would be a violation of your pretrial release, and you would likely result in you being returned to custody without a bond? Do you understand that?
¿Usted entiende que se incumple cualquier tipo de las condiciones que yo le he nombrado o que el tribunal le imponga? Eso sería automáticamente un incumplimiento de las condiciones de puesta en libertad que sería usted aprendido bajo custodia sin posibilidad de fianza.
Sí, señor.
Yes, sir.
I have no further questions for Mr. Torres Ayala, Judge. Thank you.
Thank you.
No hay más preguntas para el señor Torres Ayala. Gracias, su señoría.
Mr. Resort?
I have two questions, Your Honor.
Dos preguntas por parte de la Fiscalía.
Have you ever had a passport issued to you?
Señor, ¿alguna vez se le emitió un pasaporte? ¿Ha tenido usted pasaporte?
No.
No.
And do you understand that if the court orders you not to have contact with a particular individual, that includes not having contact or not passing messages to someone through a third party. Do you understand that?
Usted entiende que si este tribunal le ordena que no puede tener contacto con un individuo, esto no puede ser, por ejemplo, con un mensaje a través de terceros. ¿Entiende esto?
Sí entiendo.
Yes, I understand.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
No hay más preguntas, señoría.
State, I have some additional questions about allegations that Mr. Torres Ayala attempted to delete messages, change his appearance. Is there any additional information for the court regarding those allegations?
Fiscal, yo tengo algunas preguntas sobre las supuestas alegaciones del señor Torres Ayala, que intentó borrar mensajes y intentó cambiar su aspecto físico para no ser encontrado por las autoridades. ¿Me puede usted dar más información?
Yes, Your Honor. It would appear that at some point subsequent to the shooting, though I don't know at what point, a Facebook profile identified as belonging to the defendant was no longer publicly available. The state does not have any evidence that it was the defendant that made the profile unavailable to the public. So I appreciate that that is a cause for concern. It is for the state as well. However, I cannot say that it was the defendant that would have made the profile unavailable. Messages that were deleted, there were messages deleted, but they were not his messages. The only messages that I'm aware of that have been deleted were actually from Jamie Mojica Hernandez from her phone that she admitted to deleting.
Was a firearm recovered?
Yes, sir.
Su señoría, parece ser que en un principio, después del tiroteo, que un perfil de Facebook ya no estaba disponible al público. Ahora, esta fiscalía no tiene pruebas de que fue el acusado el quien borró y eliminó lo que es el perfil de Facebook al público. Después hubo algunos mensajes que fueron eliminados. No sabemos si fue directamente el acusado, pero eran unos mensajes que iban dirigidos a Jamie Mojica Hernández. ¿Fue recuperada el arma de fuego? Sí, su señoría.
Your Honor, the firearm was found in the vehicle belonging to Christina Michelle Cantwell, who is one of the individuals who the state was requesting that the defendant be ordered to have no contact with. She was identified as a girlfriend of the defendant.
Su señoría, el arma de fuego recuperado en el vehículo de Christina Maxwell Cantwell, que en ese momento es uno de los individuos que la fiscalía ha pedido que no tenga nada de contacto, y ella fue identificada como la novia del acusado.
Can you tell when Mr. Torres Ayala was arrested based on the warrant?
¿Me puede decir cuándo fue arrestado el señor Torres Ayala según la orden de arresto?
The defendant was arrested on January the 4th here in Orlando.
El acusado fue arrestado el día 4 de enero aquí en Orlando.
I'm sorry, we're actually in Kissimmee, Judge, but he was arrested in Orlando.
Perdón, fue en Kissimmee, pero fue llevado a Orlando.
Why is Mr. Torres Ayala in the Osceola County Jail?
I could not answer that, Your Honor, with any certainty. I believe that either he or the named victim's family has a family member who may be employed or otherwise work in the Orange County Jail, but I don't know that with certainty.
Porque el señor Torres Ayala está en la cárcel del condado de Osceola. Su señoría, no lo sé con seguridad, pero parece ser que tiene una amistad o un familiar que trabaja dentro de la cárcel de Orange.
Based on the notes that I saw, that appeared to be the reason.
Basándonos en las notas que hay dentro del expediente, parece ser que ese es el motivo por el cual se le trasladó a esa cárcel.
This court has been requested to make an agreement to a stipulated bond with the conditions laid out in the defendant's motion filed on February 9th, 2021.
Este tribunal se le ha solicitado que tome una decisión sobre cualquier tipo de solicitud de fianza bajo una petición hecha por el acusado fechado el 9 de febrero del 2021.
Court has received additional testimony that was unanticipated from the motion to set bond from the victim's family.
También el tribunal ha recibido un testimonio por parte de la familia de la víctima que no estaba, que fue sin notificación.
Hi, Stephanie. Hi. Hey. Court?
Excuse me, Ms. Cobb, can you mute your microphone, please?
Video court. She's in her office across. We have an office across.
Ms. Cobb, please mute your microphone.
She's in the office. They're looking for you.
I did it for you.
I apologize.
The victims of the deceased have indicated a concern about potential intimidation and danger.
Las víctimas del fallecido han expresado su preocupación sobre una intimidación o amenazas por parte del acusado.
Court must consider the 13 separate requirements in Florida Statute 903.046.
Este tribunal tiene que tener en cuenta los estatutos en el punto 903.046 de los estatutos generales de las leyes de Florida.
Purpose of bail in a criminal proceeding is to ensure the appearance of the criminal defendant.
Que la fijación de una fianza es para asegurar que el sujeto o el acusado vuelva a comparecer ante el tribunal.
And to protect the community against unreasonable danger from the criminal defendant.
Y para proteger a la comunidad de cualquier peligro que puede tener hacia la comunidad.
Court must consider the nature and circumstances of the offense charged.
Este tribunal tiene en cuenta la naturaleza y las circunstancias de la acusación.
This is an allegation of first-degree murder with a firearm.
Esta es una alegación, supuesta alegación de asesinato en primer grado con arma de fuego.
Court must also consider the weight of the evidence against the defendant.
Y el tribunal también tiene en cuenta el peso de las pruebas contra este acusado.
According to the charging affidavit, the defendant was observed shooting the victim.
De acuerdo con el informe policial acusatorio, el acusado fue visto disparándole a la víctima.
The court understands that there may be a potential self-defense or stand-your-ground argument in this case.
El tribunal también entiende y tiene en cuenta que posiblemente haya una necesidad de autodefenderse.
That has yet to be established by evidence.
Y eso todavía tiene que ser establecido con algún tipo de prueba.
The defendant has no prior criminal history.
El acusado no tiene ningún tipo de antecedentes penales.
There is some evidence to suggest that he delayed his apprehension.
Hay algo de indicios que él intentó retrasar su localización por las autoridades.
There's also evidence to suggest that he did not contact law enforcement after the incident.
También hay pruebas que él no se puso en contacto con las autoridades después del incidente.
The court finds these past conduct to be relevant in consideration of accepting the state's stipulated bond conditions.
Este tribunal determina que esa conducta pues, puede ser irrelevante en cuanto a la solicitud de la fiscalía.
Mr. Wazorek, has there been a request for an Arthur hearing on this case?
Señor fiscal, ¿ha habido una solicitud de una audiencia de Arthur en este caso?
No, Your Honor. In a review of all of the evidence that has been presented to me by law enforcement and that I have available to me, I do not feel that I could make an argument to the court that the proof of the defendant's guilt is evident or the presumption of his guilt is great, based upon the reasons already articulated by the court. And actually prior today, I had that conversation with the decedent's parents as well, and explained that these were the reasons that I was agreeing to a bond in this matter, because I believe that under the law, the defendant would be entitled to a bond.
No, su señoría, después de revisar todas las pruebas que fue entregado a la fiscalía por parte de las fuerzas de seguridad y de hacer un argumento sobre la culpabilidad o de haber pruebas suficientes, he tenido esa conversación con sus padres que el acusado tiene derecho, según ley, a una fianza.
Based on the statements from the state of Florida indicating that Mr. Torres Ayala is entitled and presumed to be entitled to a consideration of bond.
Después de escuchar los argumentos del estado de Florida que el señor Torres Ayala tiene derecho a que se fije una fianza,
There being no motion for pretrial detention filed,
no hay ninguna solicitud para que sea una presión preventiva solicitada,
the court finds that Mr. Torres Ayala is statutorily entitled to bond.
el tribunal dictamina que el señor Torres Ayala tiene derecho, según ley, para una fijación de fianza.
The court understands the anguish of the victim's family.
El tribunal se pone en lugar y entiende la angustia que está sufriendo la familia.
The court has made an oath to follow the laws of the state of Florida as they exist now.
Y este tribunal ha hecho un juramento para seguir la ley del estado de Florida según está fijado.
As such, the court will accept the stipulation from the state and the conditions contained within the defendant's unopposed motion to set bond.
Y de acuerdo con eso, este tribunal acepta la solicitud sin oposición por parte de la Fiscalía para fijar una fianza.
Bond in count one will be set in the amount of $50,000.
La primera acusación se establece en la fianza de $50,000.
Defendant is to have no contact directly or indirectly with Felix Bosch or Teresa Bosch.
El acusado no podrá tener ningún tipo de contacto ni directa ni indirectamente con Felix Bosch ni Teresa Bosch.
I apologize if I mispronounced that, maybe Teresa Bosch. The defendant is to have no contact directly or indirectly with Jamie Mojica Hernandez.
El acusado no podrá tener ningún tipo de contacto con Jaime Mujica Hernández.
Defendant is to have no contact directly or indirectly with Christina Michelle Cantwell.
El acusado no podrá tener ningún tipo de contacto ni directa ni indirectamente con Christina Michelle Cantwell.
The defendant is to not go within 1,000 feet of 560 Obispo Avenue, Orlando, Florida, 32807.
El acusado no podrá acercarse a una distancia menor de 1,000 pies del 506 de Obispo Avenue, Orlando, Florida, 32807.
Defendant may not enter Chapel Trace apartment complex.
El acusado no podrá entrar dentro de la propiedad de Chapel Chase Apartments.
Defendant may not go within 1,000 feet of Blue Sky Tinting on 214 North Goldenrod Road.
El acusado no podrá estar a una distancia menor de Blue Sky Tinting en la 214 de North Goldenrod Road.
Defendant may not leave Orange County, Florida, without further permission of the court.
El acusado no podrá salir del condado de Orange sin el permiso expreso del tribunal.
Defendant may not possess any firearms as a condition of bond.
El acusado no podrá tener ninguna posesión o tenencia de armas según condiciones impuestas por este tribunal.
The court will add the condition that he possess or consume no alcohol or illegal substances.
El tribunal también añade el término y la condición que no podrá consumir ni alcohol ni ninguna sustancia ilegal.
Defendant will report to the Orange County Sheriff's Office within 48 hours of his release to have a physical measurement taken, including height and weight.
El acusado tendrá que presentarse a la oficina del sheriff del condado de Orange al menos 48 horas después de su puesta en libertad para que se le tomen medidas de altura y peso.
Any willful deviation from these orders will result in a revocation of bond hearing.
Cualquier incumplimiento o desvío de las condiciones expresados se tendrá en cuenta su anulación de la fianza y una audiencia para anular dicha fianza.
Mr. Wazor?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Nada más, Su Señoría.
Mr. Jackson, anything further on behalf of the defense?
Licenciado Jackson.
Simply that I'm not sure if we addressed the issue of the passport.
I thought it was indicated that he did not have a passport. Is that correct?
He did not, Your Honor, and he provided sworn testimony this morning that he does not have a passport, so I would consider that prior required condition to be satisfied.
Okay. So he does not need to file an affidavit then with regard to his lack of ownership.
We'll take his sworn testimony. If he has chosen to perjure himself, that would obviously be considered on any request to revoke his bond.
All right, very good. I have nothing further, Your Honor.
¿Alguna cosa más, licenciado Jackson? No, solo saber si el tema del pasaporte queda resuelto. El fiscal ha comentado que bajo juramento ha declarado no poseer pasaporte. Su señoría ha indicado que si dice lo contrario sería un motivo de perjurio ante el tribunal.
Finally, again, I sympathize with the anguish of the victims. I understand their disappointment with this court's ruling, and the court must follow the law of the state of Florida and the recommendations of the state attorney have established that a bond should be granted in this case.
Y por último quisiera expresar y entiendo el sentimiento de la familia de la víctima, su angustia que sienten, pero este tribunal tiene que obedecer las leyes tal como están establecidos en el estado de Florida y también tener en cuenta todo el expediente presentado por la fiscalía que el señor tiene derecho a fijar una fianza.
That concludes this hearing.
Y con esto se levanta la sesión.
Your Honor, do you need me any further?
No, thank you, Mr. Resort.
Have a good day.
You as well.
Thank you.
Your Honor, may the interpreter be excused.
Mr. Interpreter, thank you for your help.
Thank you to Your Honor, to the staff.
All right, our next case is William Starr, 2020 CF 3668.
Morning, Your Honor. Amanda Cassie, on behalf of the state.
Good morning, Ms. Cassie.
Nicole Dupre, on behalf of Mr. Starr.
Good morning, Ms. Dupre. All right, I took a look at the motion. Obviously, Mr. Starr is incarcerated in Texas, if memory serves. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, thank you. There was an issue with our previous hearing and effectuating the court's intention. How can I help, Ms. Dupre?
Yes, so after our hearing, I did get in contact with the Fugitive Warrant Department and the Texas County Jail where he's at. And basically, it's been brought to my attention that even if he is set with a bail bond on this case, he cannot pay a Florida bond while in Texas custody. The only way to effectuate his release is to recall the warrant itself, and that would effectuate his actually being able to be released, or else he's stuck in custody until he's extradited to Florida, which he could then post bail. I spoke to them and they advised that his transport has not yet been scheduled. They had scheduled it and then something happened. And so he'll basically be sitting in custody for anywhere between 30 to 90 days waiting transport. And I know it was the intention for him to be able to get released on this case and appear. So I was just asking the court to reconsider recalling the actual case because it was not executed. even though he is in custody.
All right, my understanding was he's not in custody based on our capias warrant. Is that correct?
No, he is in custody on our capias warrant.
Right, but he did not initially enter into the jail based on our capias warrant.
Correct. He was arrested on a misdemeanor trespassing charge, and then once he was in custody for that, they saw the Florida warrant, and so now he's just sitting in there on our.
Ms. Kazi, state's position?
I guess I just have some concerns or maybe clarification. Defense counsel indicated he can't post a bond because the case is pending in Florida. So if the capias is recalled, is he just going to be ROR'd on our case? Like, I just want to make sure that there's a bond and conditions that would be set in place even if the capias is recalled. Ultimately, I would defer to the court. It seems as though, it's kind of a unique set of circumstances, but I just want to ensure that there's some sort of conditions on him on our case.
Madam Clerk, has the bonds been streeted or?
Once we put the warrant out, we usually street the bonds, so
But it hasn't been the warrant hasn't been served yet.
it hasn't, but the bonds were streeted.
Bonds are streeted. So,
Like it's possible they were already streeted by our bonds clerk. Yes, forfeited them.
the court had considered granting new bonds, but evidently that's not going to work. ROR does not seem appropriate based on the allegation that there's been a new law offense while he was out on bond. So any other options, Ms. Dupre?
I don't know if he qualifies for pretrial release. I do know, I was speaking to his attorney in Texas, and she advised me that his new law offenses are being dismissed, and those are resolved. I know that I don't have proof here right now. I don't know if he qualifies for pretrial release, and maybe that can effectuate some form of conditions for him. But obviously, I'm just trying to effectuate his release because of his mental health situation,
Right.
And him being unable to post bond without being extradited, and because of Texas being in the situation they are recently. I'm just trying to advocate for his release. So I don't know if he was ever deemed that he qualified for pretrial release, but that is the only other.
We had a witness at our last hearing. Had she traveled here from Texas?
No, she was present virtually. That was his wife. She testified that she's responsible for him, that she knows of his whereabouts, that she would ensure his appearance here. Basically, that he was in custody there.
Ms. Cassie, what's a prior criminal history look like on Mr. Starr?
Yes, Your Honor. The state had previously provided a score sheet. He just has one local duelist from 2016, which was ultimately disposed of. But one of the charges that he's presently facing in our Osceola County case is also a trespass. I do understand the mental health concerns, but I just have some concerns regarding PTR as well. I don't know. It's a very unique set of circumstances. I'm trying to look at his first appearance paperwork to see the PTRs.
I believe it says he did not qualify for PTR based off self-harm. That's the only reason I see here on the initial appearance information sheet.
PTR would need to see him. He would need to be here to effectuate that review, and they're not going to be able to review him from Texas. So I'm not exactly sure if that's a viable option as well. Let me take a look at the facts of the case. Mr. Moses, I apologize for being behind. All right, the instances of violence alleged are jerking his hand away, began to jump and kick at the time that he was apprehended. He was taken to the ground several times by deputies. This certainly seems from the charging affidavit that he gave him a hard time, but the allegations of violence appear to be mostly directed at himself, and it sounds like he was redirected to the ground several times on the way from the hotel room to the car, so he may have they've got the worst end of his resistance, alleged resistance. Mr. Prey, if I consider a release on ROR, I'm going to need to see him at our next pretrial. He's going to need to travel to the state of Florida. I don't know what he was doing in Texas anyway.
Well, Your Honor, he is a resident of Texas, which is why I filed the initial recall that he FTA'd out arraignments, because he was not notified, because he's a resident of Texas. I have provided Ms. Kathy mail showing that he's a resident there. His wife has promised to get him here, that she'll buy his ticket and come here. His attorney is actually calling me now. I will ensure his presence.
All right.
And just for the record, Your Honor, if I can change my position slightly, he doesn't have any violent criminal history. My only concern was him picking up another trespass in Texas, but with the mental health concerns and the facts of this matter, I don't object to an ROR as long as his presence can be secured at our next court date. The state would not object.
All right, I've read the charging affidavit. He was listed as transient. I don't know whether he gave them that information or whether law enforcement surmised that or just put that based on them not having any additional information. Let me take a look at the bond and see what the bond indicates.
I think it's general delivery as well. The bondsman had a hard time notifying him of the court date.
Yeah. All right, the court has heard from his family indicating a mental health condition and their willingness to lend support. The court is going to grant the request to ROR Mr. Starr on his 5 cases. I'm going to set Mr. Starr for our next pretrial docket, which is going to be on March 24th at 9 o'clock. Mr. Starr is ordered to be physically present at that pretrial. And potential trial date will be May 10th through May 27th. All right, that will conclude our hearing. Thank you. Mr. Moses? Yes, of course, thank you.
And myself as well, Your Honor. Thank you.
It's an emergency situation where a suspect is trying to leave the country and they need emergency warrants.
All right, thank you. Mr. Moses, with your indulgence, may I have about another 5 minutes? Thank you. All right, the court's going to be in a 5-minute recess.
It's Orange County Court minutes, and it's not like I can just put them in benchmark. I have to physically write them. So I'm just like trying to make sure they make sense. Right. So I'm like kind of stressed, making sure they look perfect. No, the last one. Orange County that we just did for the murder. I'm just trying to be super specific.
Ms. Cobb? I think you're on mute. I think we muted you. Ms. Cobb, if you can hear me, Mr. Collins, if you can hear me, the request was to bring the defendant, Mr. Baker, last based on quarantine restrictions. So I apologize for the delay. I'll call you next. Oh, he is here?
Thank you, Judge.
All right. Let me take this really quick, Mr. Moses. Sure. All right, we are on a motion for automatic release on his own recognizance in 2021 CF 193. State, is there any response?
Justice Collins, on behalf of Peter Donnelly for the state, Your Honor, the state at this time doesn't have a good faith basis to object to the motion being granted.
All right, thank you. All right, pursuant to statute and the representation of the state of Florida that they are not going to be filing an information within 33 days, the court is going to order that Mr. Jeremy Baker be released on his, is it his 33rd day?
35th.
That he be released on his own recognizance in 21 CF 193. Mr. Baker, please stay in contact with your appointed attorney. That doesn't mean the case has gone away, but your condition of release will be release on your own recognizance. Does Mr. Well, the case hasn't been filed yet, so we don't have any additional court dates for you.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Have a good day.
Thank you as well. Thanks for your patience, y'all. Michael Sedano, or Sedano?
Sir, he has COVID-19, so we didn't bring him up.
Okay. All right. So he is actively quarantined and tested positive, apparently. Mr. Moses, do you wish to waive his appearance and have the court consider your request?
I would, Your Honor.
All right.
I think this is one that Mr. Collins and I are pretty close on everything, and I think we just need Your Honor to make some final decisions.
All right, thank you. This is Michael Cedeno, 2015 CF 3743. Mr. Cedeno is charged with a violation of probation. There is a request to set bond. Mr. Collins, I understand that there is some objection from the state of Florida. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor. We just object to an RRR motion because he absconded while on probation, so the state would just be wanting some type of monetary guarantee like that. The state does also understand that for the last 4 or 5 years that he's absconded, he's importantly had no negative interactions with law enforcement, or else he'd have been picked up a little sooner. So that's why we just want some type of monetary guarantee that he'll show up. And we'd leave that at the discretion of the court, Your Honor.
Let me take a quick look at the case.
I did provide Your Honor with the score sheet. I'm not sure if you have that. This is pretty much the criminal history is this case. I think he's got a withhold in this case as well, so he's got a lot riding on coming compliance.
Well, it's been 6 years since his arrest. When was he placed on probation?
He pled out back in 2016. And the VOP was filed in 2017.
Let's see that. Read the underlying offense.
Oh, and one of the other things, Your Honor, I know you're still looking at this, was that the state was like that. He did test positive for cannabis when he was back on probation. So that was one of the other things the state kind of wanted to look at, some possible mitigation.
All right, the theft alleges 8 lottery tickets as well as Little Debbie glazed cakes and donut holes. Okay. Second mail.
Your Honor, Mr. Moses indicates to the state that he does have a current job that's, is sitting waiting for him, so he's currently employed, especially during these times, and that's why the state's not objecting to some type of monetary, given the circumstances of COVID, how it's affecting somebody who's employment.
When was he arrested?
He was in the Orange County Jail before he was transferred here, Your Honor. He's been in Osceola, I think, since 2009, and I believe he was arrested on the violation.
It was a traffic stop, Your Honor. He did have a current driver's license at that time, and just when they went to check him for warrants, this warrant came up.
Give me just a minute.
I believe he was actually arrested on 2-5, if I'm not mistaken.
All right, based on a reading, it appears that Mr. Sedano was reasonably cooperative with law enforcement. He did abscond from probation based on the de minimis nature of the allegations in the charging affidavit, as well as a lack of any other criminal history. Court is inclined to make a determination as to conditions of release. Mr. Moses, you're requesting ROR. What is the state requesting?
State's requesting some of a monetary gain, Your Honor. The amount we leave at the discretion of the court.
All right, based on the amount of time that he absconded from probation, the court is inclined to set a monetary bond in this case. Bond as to, let me take a look at what he pled to. What's that?
Just the one VLP count.
It's the one count of burglary of a structure.
We just picked up one biggest count up on probation.
Oh, I got it. It's a violation of probation. I understand. Okay. Bond's going to be set in the amount of $1,000.
Very good. Judge, I believe his next court date is sometime in, March 30th. I believe there is a status. Mr. Collins and I had been discussing Mr. Cedano's ability to come back into compliance with the requirements of his probation, which I think will probably be unlikely to be accomplished by then. Could I get on your April docket so I would have you would have a better feel of how he is in getting everything done?
What I'll do, Mr. Moses, is I'd like to see him in court on the 30th.
No problem.
And then we will set a violation of probation status, our hearing date on May 6th.
Okay.
And we can talk about a plea cutoff date at that point sometime in May.
Very good.
An opportunity to get everything accomplished. Mr. Collins?
That's what I was going to do, Your Honor. Me and Mr. Moses are discussing a possible resolution to this. I just don't think he can come in all compliance with everything by the March 30th date. And that's what I was just going to ask the court to set it off a little bit longer just to give him a chance. It's not the biggest violation of probation. I think it's something we can definitely resolve, being that the last 4 or 5 years he hasn't had any negative challenge.
I won't expect him to be in full compliance by March 30th, but I will expect some kind of positive movement, and I'd like him to be physically present on March 30th.
Absolutely, Your Honor. Very good.
Yep.
Good seeing you.
Good to see you as well.
Thank you.
Hope your drive out to Osceola was pleasant.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
See you.
See you later.
Thank you, Mr. Collins.
No problem. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right.
You have a good one.
We'll be in recess until 1 o'clock for initial appearances.
We'll email it to you.
Sorry?
We'll email.
That's what I wanted to double check. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Brought the record. Good afternoon, Osceola County. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, thank you. I have the Assistant Public Defender identify herself for purposes of the record.
Yes, we have Jeray Reed on behalf of the Public Defender's Office.
I missed your last name, I'm sorry.
Jeray Reed, R-E-I-D.
Thank you, Ms. Reed. On behalf of the State Attorney's Office?
Alex Melvin on behalf of the state, Your Honor.
I missed the last name again.
Alex Melvin on behalf of the state, Your Honor.
Melvin?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Melvin. We have Officer Okendo, present on behalf of pretrial release. We have a private counsel on the line. Mr. Ferry?
Yes, first name is Matthew and last name is Ferry, and my firm represents Nicholas Rodriguez.
All right, thank you. We're here for initial appearances. My name is Keith Carson. I'm one of your circuit judges. The purpose of initial appearances is to make a determination as to whether a probable cause has been found or whether there is probable cause for your arrest. Next, we will get an attorney on board to represent your interests if one qualifies to represent you. Last thing we will talk about is conditions of bond, if any, that will return you to your lives while these cases are pending. I'm going to call Mr. Ferry's case first. Does your client need the assistance of an interpreter, Mr. Ferry?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Is your client Luis Rodriguez Vasquez?
Nicholas Rodriguez.
Thank you. All right. Nicholas Rodriguez. Is Nicholas Rodriguez present? Are you Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes, sir.
All right. Good afternoon, Mr. Rodriguez. Mr. Rodriguez, you were arrested in 21 MM 485. The allegation being battery, domestic violence related. I have reviewed the charging affidavit. I do find probable cause for your arrest. Mr. Rodriguez, I believe that you are also listed as a victim. Mr. Ferry, do you wish to present any testimony regarding whether he wishes to have contact with the co-defendant, Ms. Birnbach?
Your Honor, my request is that the court set bond in the amount of $500 with the condition of no contact with the alleged victim. My client is 22 years old. He has no prior record of any kind. He does have a case from 2019 in Orange County in which he's in diversion for. He resides in New York with his mother, and he does suffer from significant mental health disabilities, including autism. So we're asking the court to set bond in the amount of $500 with no contact with the alleged victim.
Right, thank you. Mr. Rodriguez, the court, based on a review of your criminal history, it appears that you're out on pretrial intervention on 2019 CF 6037. As such, you're not released technically on a condition of bond. I'm going to take no action on that case, but the state is on notice that there's an allegation of a new law offense in 2019 CF 6037, and the judge in Orange County can take whatever action they feel is appropriate. As to this case, I don't believe that you're going to qualify for pretrial release conditions. The court will grant a bond in this case in the amount of $500 with the following conditions. Mr. Rodriguez, you're to have no contact with Ms. Birnbach. Mr. Ferry, does your client cohabitate with Ms. Birnbach?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. They're to maintain separate residences in any case. And the court will note that Mr. Ferry has been represented to represent Mr. Rodriguez's interest. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Your Honor, just for the court's information, there is also another private attorney that is inside the chapel, and that is for the Suarez Cortez Jonathan.
Thank you. Who's the private counsel at the jail facility?
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Tom Somerville on behalf of Mr. Suarez Cortez.
Good afternoon, Mr. Somerville. Mr. Suarez Cortez. Does your client, Mr. Somerville, need the assistance of an interpreter?
He does not, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Suarez Cortez. The court has previously found probable cause. Mr. Somerville, are you waiving a reading of the allegations?
I would, Judge, but what I would request is the court reconsider probable cause as charged or as arrested on a 4B, special circumstances. I don't see any allegation that would meet that. I think it ought to be a 5B, which is a second-degree felony.
All right. The probable cause argument, Mr. Somerville.
Judge, the statute charged 794-0114B
Correct.
is a special circumstances, which lists special circumstances in 4E, where the victim would be physically helpless or the offender coerces the victim by submitting to threats of use of force or violence likely to cause serious personal injury. I just don't see any of those special circumstances that are listed that would find probable cause at a 4B, perhaps at a 5B.
All right. Thank you. State's response.
Your Honor, I would base my argument on the four corners of the charging affidavit that I have here and filled out by Detective Gila Ruiz. I would argue, based on the facts, there is probable cause for detention in this matter. And under that, I guess under this argument here, I would just say this charging affidavit would be sufficient.
All right. Thank you. Give me just a moment. Right, the court agrees with the defense. The court does not find probable cause of a violation of 794.011 subsection 4C. The court finds that within the four corners of the document, none of the enumerated aggravators considered in paragraph 794.011E appear to be present. Court does find probable cause for a violation of 794.011 section 5B. Mr. Somerville, do you wish to be heard as to any other matters?
Regarding release, Your Honor.
When you're ready.
Thank you. Judge, Mr. Suarez Cortez, 24 years old, has no prior criminal history anywhere in the world. He's a United States citizen. Law enforcement has possession of his passport. He has family ties, some locally and family throughout the United States. And he also has significant employment ties here locally to the community. He's not a flight risk. He's a young man. He absolutely denies committing any crime and is looking forward to defending himself in this case.
Thank you, Mr. Somerville. State, has the state had the opportunity to notify the alleged victim?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right, the court issued a warrant for no bond. Mr. Suarez Cortez is going to remain on no bond pending the state being given a meaningful opportunity to consider the victim's input and allow them an opportunity to participate in any request for bond pursuant to the victim rights statute. So the request for bond is denied without prejudice, Mr. Somerville.
Judge, respectfully, he's been incarcerated since yesterday. The state has had every opportunity. It's a second-degree felony where he's constitutionally entitled to bond.
All right. State, has there been a request for pretrial detention?
Your Honor, I'll have to, can you allow me one moment? I'm going to have to look into it and see if there actually is or not.
Of course.
Judge, additionally, I'm not aware of any even effort to communicate with
It's right here.
the alleged victim in this case.
So, Your Honor, the state has not filed a pretrial detention motion at this time.
All right, thank you. Based on the court's finding of probable cause as to the second-degree felony allegation pursuant to 794.011 subsection 5 subsection B, does the state concede that Mr. Suarez Cortez is entitled to consideration for bond?
Your Honor, I believe he is entitled.
Do you wish to be heard as to, do you wish to present testimony, Mr. Somerville, as to amount of bond?
Not testimony, Your Honor. I just proffer to the court that he's a 24-year-old young man without significant financial resources. He owns no home, owns no vehicle. He's renting an apartment. He does have good employment. He hasn't been paid for his employment thus far. His first check isn't until March 1st. Based upon that, I'd request a $7,500 bond. Judge, he's not a danger to the community with no prior history. He's not going to run. He's 24 years old, and he's retained private counsel.
What is his employment?
Judge, he is employed by the Orlando City Soccer.
All right, based on the statutory entitlement to consideration for bond, the court is going to grant a bond in the charge in which the court has found probable cause, 794.011, subsection 5, subsection B. Bond is going to be set in the amount of $20,000 with the following conditions. He's to have no contact whatsoever with the alleged victim. In this case, he is to have no contact whatsoever with the co-defendant. In this case, Mr. Somerville, do I need to announce the co-defendant, or is he aware of who that is?
He's aware of that person, Your Honor.
All right. Is there any reason for Mr. Suarez Cortez to be outside of Orange County? Does he live in Osceola County?
He lives in Osceola. He works in Orange.
All right. Is there any reason to that he needs to leave the Ninth Judicial Circuit?
Not presently. I think probably we address that at the next level.
Understood. All right. Mr. Suarez Cortez is not to leave the Ninth Circuit without further order of the court. He may have incidental contact through his employment with the co-defendant. Any other requested terms and conditions of bond requested from the state?
I would request that he would forfeit his passport, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Somerville, you represented that he's already forfeited his passport?
It was on his person. It's in his property. I don't know if law enforcement intended on keeping it or returning it to him upon his release, but they have it now. It's at the jail, I should say, unless law enforcement took it, custody of it.
Your Honor, the state is having a hard time hearing defense.
Somerville represented that it's on his person. It was on his person at the time of his arrest. It's in custody of the jail. Should the jail retain the passport and submit that to the clerk of the court?
Yes, Your Honor.
That's fine, Judge.
I would also ask that no alcohol as well.
All right. Mr. Suarez Cortez is to possess or consume no alcohol or illegal substances as a condition of bond.
Thank you for your time, Judge.
That will conclude our hearing. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Oh, 011, subsection 5, subsection C, subsection B. Luis Rodriguez Vasquez.
Defense is formally waiving the reading of the charges.
Thank you. Does Mr. Rodriguez Vasquez need the assistance of an interpreter?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. This is Dalia Romero, Spanish interpreter on the line, already sworn in today.
Good afternoon, Ms. Romero. We have Mr. Rodriguez Vasquez at the podium at the Osceola County Jail. The case number is 21 CF 533.
Thank you, Your Honor. Señor Rodríguez Vázquez, ¿puede escuchar la intérprete?
Sí.
He can hear the interpreter, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Rodriguez Vasquez, you were arrested. The court will appoint the Office of the Public Defender to represent your interests at this time.
Señor Rodríguez Vázquez, usted fue arrestado y el juez le está designando el defensor público para que le represente de aquí en adelante. Okay.
Ms. Reed, is the Office of the Public Defender requesting a waiver of a reading?
Yes, Your Honor, we are requesting a waiver of the formal reading.
La Oficina de Defensores Públicos está pidiendo que no se lea en acta las acusaciones que se han radicado en su contra.
Mr. Rodriguez Vasquez, your attorney has requested a waiver of the reading of charges, which indicates to me that you are aware of what the allegations are against you. Is that correct?
Señor Rodríguez Vázquez, su abogada me ha pedido que no lea en actas las acusaciones en contra que tienen en su contra, lo cual me lleva a pensar que usted está consciente de que se le acusa.
Sí.
Yes.
Based on the allegations, the bond is going to be set at no bond.
Basado en lo que se alega, usted queda detenido sin fianza.
I do find probable cause for the allegations in the charging affidavit.
Yo hallo que hay causas que respaldan la acusación de acuerdo a la affidavit de arresto.
Do we have any additional court dates?
Your Honor, may defense be heard on the bond issue?
Yes?
¿Pudiera decir algo la defensa en cuanto a la fianza, su señoría? Sí.
Your Honor, without getting into case-specific details, as you know, I did waive the formal reading of the charges.
I'm having a difficult time hearing you.
Is this better?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, without getting into case-specific details with the charges, in reading the four corners of the affidavit, there is no connection that the allegations happen beyond the statements that were made. No DNA, no phone records, nothing like that that connects the alleged victim to the defendant in this case. Defense is requesting, based on that, reasonable bonds with stipulations that protect all parties involved.
Sin entrar en detalles, en todos los detalles de la acusación, su señoría, no hay nada que conecte, una conexión más allá de lo que se atestiguó. No hay declaraciones, no hay récord de llamadas de teléfono, así que por lo tanto la defensa está pidiendo que se designe una fianza que proteja a todas las personas.
Defendant is a native of this area. He does live here. He does not present any flight risk or any issues with escaping the jurisdiction. So again, defense is asking for a reasonable bond with stipulations to protect all parties involved.
El acusado es natural de esta área, vive en esta área, no hay riesgo de que se vaya a ir y por lo tanto se vaya a ir a la fuga, así que por lo tanto estamos pidiendo una fianza razonable.
The court has found probable cause for the allegations.
El juez ha hallado que hay causas que respaldan lo que se está alegando en la acusación.
Based on the allegations contained in the affidavit, the court does not find that bond is appropriate.
Basado en lo que se alega en la affidavit acusatoria, el juez no halla que una fianza es lo adecuado.
The request for bond is denied.
Por lo tanto, se va a denegar la petición de que se le designe una fianza.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Madam Interpreter, that was the last of the cases that indicated they needed your assistance. Would you mind making an announcement to the courtroom?
Yes, Your Honor. ¿Hay alguna otra persona presente que vaya a necesitar los servicios de un intérprete? Si hay alguien que va a necesitar intérprete, levanten su mano, pase adelante, díganos su nombre.
All right, we have a couple of folks that will need your assistance. Sir, your name, please?
¿Su nombre, señor? Pedro Denizar Pizarro.
Good afternoon, sir.
Muy buenas tardes, señor. Good afternoon.
Sir, you were arrested based on an out-of-county warrant from Polk County.
Señor, usted fue arrestado por una orden de arresto de fuera de condado, del condado de Polk.
Polk County has issued no bond.
El condado de Polk ha determinado que usted quede detenido sin fianza
You'll remain on no bond.
y va a quedar detenido sin fianza.
Polk County will be notified you're here in the Osceola County Jail.
Y al condado de Polk se le va a notificar que usted está detenido aquí en la cárcel del condado de Osceola.
Thank you.
Gracias. But am I allowed to ask anything?
I'm sure that the Assistant Public Defender, as a friend of the court, would advise you not to talk about the facts of the case.
Señor, la abogada, defensor público como amiga de la corte, le va a aconsejar que no hable de los hechos de este caso.
With that being said, is there anything that you would like me to know?
Habiendo dicho esto, ¿hay alguna cosa que usted quiera decir?
Thank you.
Gracias.
The other gentleman that raised his hand, sir, your name, please?
Su nombre, por favor, señor. Ángel Arma.
Sir, you were arrested based on an allegation of battery domestic violence related.
Señor, usted fue arrestado por lo que se alega que es un caso de agresión, violencia doméstica.
I have reviewed the charging affidavit and I do find probable cause for your arrest.
Yo he repasado la affidavit acusatoria y hallo que hay causas que respaldan la acusación.
The court will grant a bond in the amount of $250 plus pretrial release conditions.
El juez le otorga una fianza de $250 más las restricciones de libertad preventiva.
As a condition of pretrial release, you're to have no contact with Elena Michelle Lamboy.
Como condición del programa de libertad preventiva, usted no va a poder tener ningún tipo de contacto con Elena Lomboy.
You're not to return to the 909 Lenore Avenue address.
No puedes regresar al 909 de la Leonore Avenue.
Do you have personal belongings at that location?
¿Usted tiene alguna pertenencia en esa localización? That's my house. That's my house.
The court will allow you to return one time with law enforcement to get some personal belongings until this case gets sorted out.
El juez le va a permitir poder regresar en una sola ocasión acompañado de un policía para que retire sus artículos personales. Acompañado de un policía una sola vez.
I will appoint the Office of the Public Defender to represent your interests.
Y se le designa la Oficina de Defensores Públicos para que les represente.
Thank you.
Gracias. Eso es todo. ¿Alguien más que vaya a necesitar los servicios de un intérprete? Por favor, levanten su mano. I've asked Your Honor if anyone else needed the services of the interpreter.
I don't see any additional hands, Ms. Interpreter. Thank you very much for your assistance.
You are welcome. Have a great day, Your Honor.
You as well.
Thank you.
State, do we know if, is this a witness on one of our cases? Or?
Yes, Your Honor.
Which
This is one of the victims.
Which case?
Luis? Bliss, yes, Bliss. Valerie Bliss.
Valerie Bliss, good afternoon. Ms. Bliss, you were arrested based on an allegation of battery domestic violence in 21 MM 483. I have reviewed your charging affidavit. I do find probable cause for that allegation. I'll note for the record we have a witness present. Good afternoon, ma'am. Do you need the assistance of an interpreter?
No.
All right, thank you. Your name, please?
Jan Patricia Bliss.
Thank you. Ms. Bliss, we're going to place you under oath.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Ms. Bliss, I have found probable cause for the arrest of Valerie Bliss. I will be considering conditions of bond and whether contact is appropriate. You are listed as the alleged victim in the charging affidavit. Do you wish to be heard as to those decisions that I'll be making? You want to give me some information?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Whenever you're ready.
Okay. Yesterday, I had chemo. I had to go to chemo. I had errands to run, and when I got home, I just came home for about 10 minutes, and Valerie wasn't in the house. But yesterday morning, when we woke up, she made me breakfast, and she was complaining about her back. So we were going to go to Rock Church, where she does her customers community service, and she was just complaining about her back. And I said, okay. So I ran and did my errands. I went to pick up my granddaughter, and we came home. And when we came home, the house was a mess. The thing is, my son passed away 7 months ago, and now Valerie broke up with the boyfriend, and she lost she lost her car, she lost everything. So she moved in with me. She was so excited yesterday or the day before, saying that she's up to date with her probation, her community service. I mean, she was great. I don't know what happened yesterday, but with her and I, we just started yelling and screaming. And what she wanted was the bedroom, the big bedroom, which is up front. And she's complaining about sleeping on the couch, and probably that's why, her back was hurting. And plus, when she works at Publix, she's working anywhere from 5 to 9 hours, standing. I was just, I talked to my granddaughter, and we decided that we were going to give her the room because it's her furniture. Her furniture's in that room, and that's her main complaint. But she was living up the street, and when they broke up, she moved back in with me. So now we have 6 people under my roof. And I only have 1 car, and I'm driving my granddaughter to high school, picking her up, taking Valerie to church for community service, to her meetings, taking her to work and picking her up when she's done. She just had a bad day. She just had a bad day. And with her and I, we don't talk softly, we yell, we scream, and it just got out of hand.
All right, thank you. Are you requesting to have contact with Ms. Bliss?
Yes.
All right, and are you requesting that Ms. Bliss return to the home at Indian Ridge Trail?
Well, what we decided that she would live with her father, my ex-husband, who lives in Kissimmee, and she can continue going back and forth to work, and I'll be there to help her, to drive her wherever she needs me to drive her. I'm willing to help her. She just had a bad day. That's all I can say.
Understood. State, any questions for the witness?
Yes, Your Honor. I just wanted to ask, who called 911 in this case?
My granddaughter.
Granddaughter? At any point, did the defendant try to prevent your granddaughter from calling 911?
No.
Oh. Was there anyone else present with you when this happened? It was just you two?
It was us, yeah, us two and my granddaughter.
Okay. Do you work?
No.
No. You said the defendant works, right?
Yes, she works at Publix.
Has anything like this ever happened before?
It happened with my son,
Okay.
and he passed away before the charges.
Okay.
Okay.
Um,
I'm not pressing any charges, you know. Again, she's a good mother. She has a 13-year-old son. She's just having it rough, you know, not having a car. And like I said, she's paid off her probation and she's paying all her bills and helping me, you know, and I have custody of my son's 3 children. So I'm raising 3 kids again.
Ma'am, was alcohol involved at any point in time? Or did you have any reason
I
to believe
didn't
that?
see her drink.
No?
I didn't see her drink.
Was she drunk?
She might have been.
Okay. And my last question is, are you in fear of the defendant?
No.
Okay.
She's my daughter, no.
Your Honor, the state would request just no contact with the victim, reasonable bond set, and then no alcohol.
Thank you. Ms. Reed?
Yes, defense is requesting no hostile contact with the alleged victim, a reasonable bond that is set due to the fact that the defendant is working. We're asking that no action be taken on anything else at this time because she's working, she is productive, she's trying to complete her probation faithfully, and the alleged victim has stated multiple times that she is not in fear. She wants to have contact with her daughter, and she also has set up an arrangement for her to live somewhere else to help to alleviate the tensions that were in the house at that time. So again, defense is requesting that there is a reasonable bond. We have no hostile contact so that she can continue to transport her daughter to and from work, as that is important for her in her probation, and then also that she can remain at her father's house or residence.
State, I note that Ms. Blizz is on probation for 2 separate cases in 20 CT 991 and 20 MM 1244. Can you look up, see if there's been any prior violations of probation?
Yes, Your Honor.
Officer Akendo, do you have any information about the 2
Judge, we don't have
probation
any,
cases?
we have a prior VOP, but that's before this current probation, not current VOPs on the current probation.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I'm not seeing any other violations.
Thank you for that information. Mr. Memmon. Ms. Bliss, the court is going to set a bond in your case in the amount of $500 with the following conditions. You're to have no hostile contact whatsoever with Jan Patricia Bliss. That means exactly what it sounds like. No screaming matches, no getting in her face, obviously no putting your hands on her. You are to maintain separate residences, and you are not to return to the 7718 Indian Ridge Trail address as a condition of your bond. Do you have personal belongings at that location?
Yes.
Court will allow you to return one time with law enforcement to get your personal belongings to tide you over while this case gets sorted out.
Your Honor, the state would also request that she have no weapons and no firearms.
Court is going to order that you possess or consume no alcohol or illegal substances, that you possess no weapons or firearms. Court's not going to take any action on the two misdemeanor cases in which you are on probation. It will be up to your probation officer whether to request an affidavit or a violation of probation warrant based on these circumstances. And I'll appoint the Office of the Public Defender to represent your interests. Thank you.
Your Honor, may I get the bond amount for that one more time, please? $500.
Okay. Norton Altador. Good afternoon, Mr. Altador.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Altador, you are with us based on an out-of-county warrant out of Hillsborough County. The allegation is a violation of a DV injunction. Unfortunately, Hillsborough County has issued no bond, so you're going to remain with us without bond. We'll let Hillsborough County know that you're here with us, and if they authorize us to consider bond, we may be able to do that from here. Thank you.
Do you know how long this process going to take?
Do I know the process?
I said, do you know how long this process going to take for Hillsborough to come get me?
I do not. Do you have an assistant public defender over in Hillsborough County?
No, I don't even have a charge for this injunction. I am the victim. I got this from my baby mama. I am the victim of a case where she bonded out on a battery, domestic violence. Well, I'm the victim on the case. She just bonded out. I stay in St. Cloud. I moved up there with my brother. Soon as she went up to jail, they picked me up from my brother's house.
Right. I understand you're frustrated. I obviously don't know much about your case. The judge that did know something about your case issued no bond, so I'm not going to be able to help you out with a bond, but we will let Hillsborough County know that you're with us, and if they authorize us to consider bond, I can do that from here.
Your Honor, he did fill out an application for the Public Defender's Office. Since we are doing that YY chart where we can resolve cases here in Osceola.
Sure.
Can he have a formal appointment, please?
Yes, I'll appoint the Office of the Public Defender, and they'll start trying to coordinate with Hillsborough County. Good luck.
I'm just saying for nothing I ain't do. 30 days of my life incarcerated for this misdemeanor.
Right.
I'm quite sure it's a misdemeanor.
I hear you.
There must no charge on top of that. It's just a straight up injunction. Like, I don't understand that.
All right, well, I've appointed an attorney to represent you. Maybe they'll be able to explain your situation. I've concluded our initial appearance today, and I'm sorry you disagree with the allegations against you. Thanks. Paul Alizia? Pronounce your last name for me, sir.
Olizia.
Mr. Olizia, you are with us based on an Orange County warrant in 2021 CF 1876. The warrant contemplates no bond. You're going to remain on no bond with us, and obviously we'll let Orange County know that you're with us. I will appoint the Office of the Public Defender to represent you to try and facilitate contact or transport. Thanks. Mr. Warnock. Good afternoon, Mr. Warnock. Mr. Warnock, you're in a similar circumstance. You got two Marion County warrants in 2020 CF 2448. Actually, one warrant, two counts. That warrant contemplates no bond. You're going to remain with us on no bond, and we'll let Judge Craggs know that you're with us in Osceola County. I'll appoint the Office of the Public Defender to represent your interest. Thanks. George Bernal.
Yes, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, Mr. Bernal.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Bernal, you are with us based on an allegation in 2020 CF 1581. The allegation in count 1, robbery with a firearm, count 2, burglary of a conveyance with an assault with a weapon. Those are both crimes that are punishable by life in prison. As to count 1 and 2, I find probable cause. Court will,
Excuse me, Your Honor.
yes.
Your Honor, can defense be heard on a probable cause for count 1?
What's robbery and conveyance? Like, remind me, ask Your Honor.
Burglary of a conveyance with an assault. Conveyance is most likely a vehicle. Ms. Reed?
Yes, Your Honor. Based on the 4 corners of the affidavit, there isn't proof, evident, or presumption great to corroborate the manner in which the events transpired. There were no working cameras. There were nothing to corroborate the witness statements. Nothing to corroborate that there was a firearm used or that there was the amount that was allegedly taken was taken. Because of this, the defense is requesting that there is a bond for count 1. Also note that this event occurred on May 20th, 2020. There were no further steps that were taken by the AV to show fear of the defendant or similar occurrences. So at this point, again, defense is asking if we can please have a bond in a reasonable amount so that the defendant can work with their attorneys to resolve these cases.
Right, it appears that the warrant's been outstanding since June of 2020. Those arguments that were made may be germane for a factual evidentiary hearing. The court finds probable cause based on the 4 corners of the document to support the allegations. Bond in count 1 is going to remain at no bond. Bond in count 2 is going to be set in the amount of $5,000 with no contact with the victim and possess no weapons or firearms as conditions. And I had previously appointed the Office of the Public Defender. Thanks. Aldo Camacho. Good afternoon, Mr. Camacho.
Judge.
Your Honor, just for the court's information, the defendant has informed that he does have private counsel.
All right. I don't have any private counsel present or waiting on our online. But with that being said, Mr. Camacho, good afternoon. In 2021 CF 491, you were arrested based on allegations of violation of injunction stalking and continued stalking after court-ordered injunction. Judge Beamer issued no bonds on those cases. I will consider you for a bond in count 1. Bond is set in the amount of $1,500 plus pretrial release conditions that you have no contact whatsoever with Jessica Elena Vasquez, and that you not be within 1,000 feet of Jessica Elaine Vasquez's home. As to count 2, the court finds probable cause will set bond in the amount of $1,500 with pretrial release conditions that you have no contact with Jessica Vasquez and you not be within 1,000 feet of her home. Standard conditions of pretrial release is that you not possess any weapons or firearms and you consume no alcohol nor illegal substances. Mr. Camacho, do you understand that you may not have any contact with Jessica Elena Vasquez?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Court will appoint the Office of the Public Defender to represent your interests. Oh, I'm sorry. You've indicated that you've hired private counsel. Who is that?
Who's your private counsel?
His name is Ken Aluga. I can't pronounce his last name. I don't have his card.
All right.
Ken Aluga. I don't know how to pronounce his last
Okay.
name.
I'm going to hold off on the public defender appointment, and we'll anticipate your private counsel's notice of appearance. Thanks. Pauline Foster. Good afternoon, Ms. Foster.
Good afternoon, sir.
You were arrested based on an allegation of violation of probation. Judge Nix reviewed the charging affidavit, which is your probation officer's affidavit, issued no bond. You're going to remain on no bond until you can get in front of Judge Nix Walker, and I will appoint the Office of the Public Defender to represent you on that case. Thank you. Evelyn Harkins. Hello, Ms. Harkins. Ms. Harkins, you are with us based on two cases. One's 2019 MM 859 and one's 2019 MM 4326. There's alleged that you failed to appear for a competency status hearing. Judge Arendis issued no bond with the special instructions that you're not to be released until the competency evaluation has been completed. So you will remain on no bond pursuant to Judge Arendis' wishes, and I will appoint the Office of the Public Defender to represent you. The Office of the Public Defender can get you in front of Judge Arendis as soon as possible. Thank you.
Just that's for both cases?
Correct.
Next court date, March 8th at 9 a.m.
You'll see Judge Arendis at the latest on March 8th at 9. Jared Hevner. Good afternoon, Mr. Hevner. Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Yes.
All right, thanks. Mr. Hevner, you are before the court in 2018 CF 3256 based on apparently an on-view violation of probation. Officer Kendo, was there a new law offense out of...
It is not a new law violation, Judge. It's our own view. I just do not know the details why he was violated.
I see a violation of condition 1, 9, and 9. Leaving probation without authorization, failing to follow the instructions to report to Titusville probation upon release, and failing to report on 2/16/2021. I'm going to appoint the Office of the Public Defender to represent Mr. Hevner's interests. Who arrested Mr. Hevner? I just don't know whether that was pursuant to a warrant. I don't have a copy of a warrant.
Looks like he was picked up somewhere else, Judge. Looks like Brevard County, and he got violated over there.
I saw that. Just wondering how. Is there an actual warrant of violation of probation?
Your Honor, I'm checking right now. Allow me one moment.
Madam Clerk, does he have any court dates here with us?
He has a VOP arraignment on March 9th.
VOP arraignment. Is there an affidavit filed in the court? Is he on probation here or out of another?
He has probation for 2 counties, our county and Brevard County.
So I'm currently seeing the out-of-county arrests, but still not finding this warrant.
Not finding the warrant, and I'm also finding the case number provided, 2018 CF 32, okay, that's what it is.
3256?
Tell me about the out-of-county arrest. Was it
I'm sorry, Judge?
the out-of-county arrest? Was that based on a new law offense, or is that based on our
I cannot
probation?
see, Judge, my copy is like too dark to read. But it looks like he had received an on view at Brevard County. I don't know what's the charge at Brevard.
I've appointed the Office of the Public Defender to represent Mr. Hebner's interests. Ms. Reed, do you want to find out whether he will, what's going on? If your client's willing to share any information with us, that would be helpful.
It looks like he has some violations, Judge, of probation.
Your Honor,
Yes.
possible, can we have 24 hours for the state to provide a warrant or some form of any documentation that there was an actual warrant, and then we set this until tomorrow?
Sounds like a reasonable request, and I'm going to bring Mr. Hebner back in 24 hours. If the court does not have substantiation or a warrant or some authorization as to why he's in custody, I'll be inclined to ROR him. So we'll recall Mr. Hebner. Mr. Hebner, tomorrow we're going to bring you back, and the state's going to provide me some information, or they're not. Thank you. Dimitri Jordan. Good afternoon, Mr. Jordan.
What's going on, man?
Mr. Jordan, you were arrested based on an allegation that you violated probation. Judge Young found probable cause. Unfortunately, he issued no bond. You're going to remain on no bond until you can see Judge Young, and I'll appoint the Office of the Public Defender in 2018 CF 2600 if they weren't already appointed.
Next court date, March 1st at 8:45 a.m.
You're going to see Judge Young on Monday.
Okay, but
Thanks. Joshua Rodriguez. Sorry to keep you waiting, Ms. Pennell.
Danielle Pennell on behalf of the state of Florida.
Defense is formally waiving the reading of the charges.
Thank you, Ms. Reed. Mr. Rodriguez, the court is appointing the Office of the Public Defender to represent your interests. She's requested a waiver of the reading of the charges against you, which indicates to me that you are aware of what those charges are. Is that correct? I didn't hear you.
well, now I do.
All right, thank you. You've been informed of the charges against you. Is that correct, Mr. Rodriguez? Court had previously found probable cause for the allegations contained in the arrest warrant. Court had issued no bond. You're going to remain on no bond. And I have previously appointed the Office of the Public Defender. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Rafael Suarez. Good afternoon, Mr. Suarez.
Good afternoon, sir.
Mr. Suarez, you were arrested. I'll appoint the Office of the Public Defender to represent your interests.
Your Honor, defense is waiving the formal reading of the charges and we also have a probable cause argument on
Thank you.
the type of charge that should be. This case has the same facts as the case from before with Suarez Cortez Jonathan. In this, the case is charged as a 4B, but it doesn't have the special conditions that are needed, so defense is asking for it to be charged as formally as a 5B.
All right, thank you. Mr. Suarez, your attorney has indicated that you are aware of the allegations against you. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Thank you. The court had previously found probable cause for a violation of 794.011, subsection 4, subsection B, and issued no bond. State, do you wish to be heard?
I do, Your Honor, but I am currently looking for the charging affidavit, so if you allow me a moment. Thought it was. I have it right up front, but might have put it in the other file.
This is a co-defendant to the argument that we heard previously. You want to take a look at mine?
If I could, Your Honor. I know I have mine over here, but
Come on up.
got mixed up.
No worries. There's a, while you're looking, there's a similar argument that probable cause does not exist for 794.011, subsection 4, subsection B, as the circumstances listed in paragraph E of 794.011, which is, there are 7 aggravators that raise the offense to a first-degree felony instead of a second-degree felony pursuant to 794.011, subsection 5, subsection B.
Your Honor, again, I would base my argument on the four corners of this document. For 794.0114B, I believe that Detective Gil Ruiz has provided sufficient information in this document to show that probable cause has been met. And
all right. Court's going to find, I understand the argument stated, the court's going to find that the affidavit is insufficient to support probable cause for 794.011, subsection 4, subsection B. The court does find probable cause for a violation of 794.011, subsection 5, subsection B. That is a felony of the second degree. As such, Mr. Suarez is entitled to consideration for bond. Ms. Reed, do you wish to present any evidence or testimony or argument as to bond?
Yes, Your Honor. The defendant also has ties to the community. He doesn't plan to leave the Circuit 9 district anytime soon. The defendant is working. He has employment. He is the brother of the defendant earlier, but he is in the process of finding and obtaining separate residence so they don't violate the no contact order. Based on all these things, defense is just asking for a reasonable bond so that he can work with his lawyer to obtain a favorable outcome in this case.
Does Mr. Suarez have the same employment as his brother?
No, Your Honor.
All right. All right, thank you. The court, based on a finding of a violation of 794.011, subsection 5, subsection B, finds that Mr. Suarez is entitled to consideration for bond. There is, pursuant to the bond considerations, there's been no evidence put forth that he is a flight risk. There's been no motion for pretrial detention filed with the court. Court is going to set bond in the amount of $20,000 with the following conditions. Mr. Suarez is to have no contact whatsoever with the alleged victim. Mr. Suarez may not have contact with the co-defendant in this case. Mr. Suarez may not leave the 9th Judicial Circuit, which is Orange and Osceola counties, without previous permission from the court. Ms. Reed, do you want to inquire as to whether Mr. Suarez has a passport?
He does have a passport, Your Honor. It is not on his person.
Right, thank you. Mr. Suarez is to surrender the passport to the clerk of the court prior to his release. He's to possess no weapons or firearms, consume no alcohol or illegal substances. Ms. Reed, Mr. Suarez is going to need a family member or friend to get his passport over to the clerk of the court. And that will need to be verified prior to his posting of bond.
Yes, Your Honor, I will inform him of this.
Thank you. Conclude our hearing. Thank you.
Your Honor, may I approach to give you back?
Yes, please. Thank you. Christian Bernabel. Good afternoon, Mr. Bernabel. Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Christian Bernabel.
Bernabel.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. You were arrested in 21 CT 540 based on an allegation of driving while licensed. Looks like, I'm not sure what equivalent status means. State? Do we know what the actual charge is? Looks like driving with a suspended driving with a suspended license with knowledge. Found probable cause for that allegation. You qualify for pretrial release. You'll be released to straight pretrial release, and I'll appoint the Office of the Public Defender to represent you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thanks.
Next court date, April 1st at 8:30 a.m.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Sherry Bernbach. Good afternoon, Ms. Bernbach.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Ms. Bernbach, you were arrested in 21 MM 482 with one allegation of battery, domestic violence related, and resisting an officer without violence. I find probable cause for both of those allegations. As to the battery, domestic violence related, court will set a bond in the amount of $250 with pretrial release conditions, that condition being that you have no contact with Nicholas Rodriguez.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you maintain separate, well, you can't have any contact, so I don't need to put that. And I will set a $150 bond as to count 2. I'll appoint the Office of the Public Defender to represent your interest.
Just for the court's information, the defendant has informed that she has obtained private counsel.
Okay.
Filling out her application, she circled that she has private attorney.
Gotcha. Who are you anticipating retaining?
My dad actually obtained a lawyer last night. I don't know much about it.
Okay. I'm going to hold off on the appointment of the attorney. You do have bonds on your case plus pretrial release conditions. So while that gets sorted out, you are bondable. Okay?
Thank you.
Yep. Tony Green. Good afternoon. You were arrested based on an allegation of petty theft, third or subsequent offense, possessing cocaine, possessing drug paraphernalia. Took a look at the charging affidavit. I do find probable cause for your arrest. You qualify for pretrial release. The court will release you to the pretrial release program, and I'll appoint the Office of the Public Defender to represent your interests.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks. Frantisek Caselli. Good afternoon, sir. Sir, you were arrested based on an allegation of battery, domestic violence in 21 CF 484.
Judge, I believe this defendant require a Czechoslovakian interpreter. I'm not sure how his English is now.
Mr. Caselli, do you need the assistance of an interpreter?
No, I can understand.
You're good? All right. Why does this have a felony case number? It's charged as a battery.
Your Honor, allow me a moment.
Are you talking about the statute, Judge?
I'm showing a case number 21 CF 484, which indicates a
That's
circuit felony.
probably a mistake by the clerk.
The charging affidavit indicates 21 MM 484, so that just may be a Scribner's error. All right. Just wanted to make sure we were on the same page, Mr. Caselli. Mr. Caselli, I reviewed your charging affidavit. I did find probable cause for the allegation of battery, misdemeanor battery, domestic violence. Court is going to set bond in the amount of $250 with pretrial release conditions. That condition being you have no contact with Amber D. Caselli, and you may not return to the Silver Thistle Lane address. Do you have personal belongings at that address?
I'm leaving there. It's my house.
Court's going to allow you to return one time with law enforcement to get some personal belongings while this case gets sorted out. And I'll appoint the Office of the Public Defender to represent your interests.
Judge, the victim wanted some type of contact when he came to the children. I don't know if he can accommodate that.
Court will allow third-party contact through a friend or a family member to arrange visitation of the children only. Thanks.
Thank you, Judge.
Thanks, Mr. Caselli. Brian Savage. Good afternoon, Mr. Savage. Good afternoon. Mr. Savage, you were just arrested and released for the same offense this week. The offense being trespass in an occupied structure. I'll appoint the Office of the Public Defender to represent your interests. You are out on bond on that other trespass case, same location. See that you bonded out on February 21st and allegedly went right back there. Ms. Reed, do you wish to be heard as to bond?
Yes, Your Honor. Defense is requesting a reasonable bond with conditions, including not returning to the location. It does appear that the defendant is transient in nature, so defense is asking for that consideration to be made by Your Honor.
I don't know what's going on. State?
Your Honor, you have to forgive me. I'm just having a hard time hearing defense.
All right, thank you. I think the defense was requesting a reasonable bond and indicating that Mr. Savage does not appear to be transient.
Your Honor, the defendant has also advised that there was a misunderstanding in terms of how he can retrieve his personal belongings. So I did take the time to explain to him that in order to return, if that was a part of his old order, he would need to contact law enforcement first. He didn't know that part. So I do understand that that's what happened, but we're just asking for a reasonable bond so that he can have the opportunity to take care of his case outside of the confines of the jail.
Confused by that representation. I'm reading the charging affidavit. I think they came in contact with him in a conference room attending a group meeting, so I don't understand why he is alleging he was getting his personal belongings. State, is there a significant criminal history for Mr. Savage?
Let me see, Your Honor.
Judge, we have that information if you want it from pretrial release. As history, the case that he was arrested prior here, that's the only case here in Osceola, has history out of other states, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Illinois, California, Georgia, Colorado, and Michigan. Has an active warrant out of the state of Minnesota for a failure to appear with a date of July of 2019. Has an active out of the state of Indiana with driving license suspended with a date of January 2020. Other charges include armed robbery, obstruction in Illinois, battery on Leo in California, domestic battery in Georgia.
All right, this is a trespass case. The court's going to impose a bond in the amount of $1,000 with the special condition of bond being that Mr. Savage does not return for any reason to the Main Gate Lakeside Resort. Court is going to revoke his bond that was posted on 2/21/21. Do we have that case number, Officer?
It's not in benchmark yet, Judge, so we couldn't retrieve that information.
The case is Osceola case number 21I016989. Court's going to set a new bond in the amount of $3,500 with the special condition that he not return to the Main Gate Lakeside Resort for any reason. I'll appoint the Office of the Public Defender in 21 MM 486. Thank you. Would you Macarius Small. Mr. Small, you were arrested based on an allegation of driving while license suspended as a habitual offender or a second or subsequent offense in 21 CF 534. I note that you are out on bond on a driving while license suspended charge in 2020 CT 2070. I find probable cause for your new offense. State, what does Mr. Small's criminal history look like?
You're looking on CCIS now, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I have a current open case, 2020 CT 2070, which is the Dwellis. Currently, I have a grand theft of third degree, 2018 CF 1572. Another driving while suspended license in 2017, CT 5184.
Thank you. Court's going to set bond in this case, 21 CF 534, in the amount of $2,500. As to 2020 CT 2070, the court finds probable cause to believe a new law offense was committed while out on bond. Bond is revoked on that case. New bond will be set in the amount of $3,500. I'll appoint the Office of the Public Defender on both cases. Thank you. Special conditions of both bonds. Mr. Small is not to drive without a valid driver's license. Dion Stevenson. Mr. Stevenson, you were arrested based on allegations of petty theft and resisting an officer without violence in 21 MM 487. I've read the charging affidavit. I do find probable cause for your arrest. Bond in count 1 is going to be set in the amount of $500. Bond in count 2 is set in the amount of $500. I'll appoint the Office of the Public Defender to represent you, and you're not to return to the Wawa on 4397 West Vine Street.
Your Honor, my apologies. The defendant is informing that the wrong name is on the affidavit. He's informing that his name is Stephen Stevenson, not Dion.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that correction. I do see that Steve George Stevenson is listed on the charging affidavit. Your face sheet is indicating Dion Stevenson.
As an AKA, Judge.
As an alias. All right, thanks. So if the clerks will make note of the AKA, it's $500 as to each count, and you're not to return to the Wawa. Thanks.
$1,000?
Correct. Frank Sciametta.
Good day, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, Mr. Sciametta. Mr. Sciametta, you have two matters before the court. One's in 21 MM 448. That is an allegation of petty theft. I took a look at the charging affidavit. I do find probable cause for that allegation. And we'll grant a bond in that case in the amount of $500. I'll appoint the Office of the Public Defender. Unfortunately, you're on probation out of Leon County for a allegation that qualifies as a violent felony offender of special concern. I find an on-view violation of probation. based on there being probable cause that you violated the law while on probation, based on your designation as a violent felony offender of special concern. You are not entitled to bond. You'll remain on no bond. We'll let Leon County know that you're here with us. Thank you.
Your Honor, may I address the court?
Sure.
I've been on probation in Osceola County for 2 years. I've been in Osceola County for 3 years. I came out of prison straight to here. I never was in Leon County. I understand my probation's over there, but
Yeah.
I don't understand how my probation officer can't be called and this can be resolved here. I have been on probation for 2 years. I've got 6 certifications since I've been out. I graduated college. I went from a worker to a foreman
Right.
to a business owner in Osceola County. I've never left this county. I came right from jail here. The only reason I'm not arguing the count because my girlfriend was going to get in trouble. I took it because she's 6 months pregnant. I don't understand how I can't be reviewed here to stay here considering my ties are here. I've never been to Leon. I have community ties and all. I have plenty of people that have verified they work for me, and I've done work for them, and I am a strong tie to this community.
I understand all of that. Understand that my role today is to make a determination as to the new law offense, which I did. I did find that there is probable cause to believe you violated probation, and based on the allegation, I can't grant you a bond, and I'm not going to grant you a bond. I'm going to appoint the Office of the Public Defender on the violation of probation case as well, and perhaps they can coordinate with your probation officer to see if there's something that can be done here in Osceola County.
Because I just don't, excuse me, Your Honor, I just don't understand how I have to go back to Leon County when I was sent here.
Well, the offense was committed in Leon County, so that's why. I don't have a more elegant explanation than that. If Leon County gives us the authority to address your violation of probation case here, I'm happy to do it. Thanks.
Address it here, and I'd go back to court then.
I don't know if we have any additional court dates for you. Your appointed attorney will be working to coordinate with prosecutors in Leon County to see if we have authority to address the violation of probation here. If they agree to a bond and agree to do a danger hearing, then I'm happy to accommodate that recommendation.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes, sir. Cornelius Williams.
He's in self-harm, Your Honor, so we're asking that he be reset till tomorrow.
All right, thanks. We'll reset, Mr. Williams. Officers, I'm going to be right with you. I got one more left. Ezekiel Diaz.
Your Honor, as the defendant approaches, I do have a little bit of information about this case. The defendant was giving a 0 bond for a new law while he was handling this Osceola case, but in my research and preparing for this initial appearance, I discovered that it wasn't technically a new law. It was a violation of a probation that he had prior to this new charge in Osceola County. So I am asking if we can set bonds so that the defendant and I can work together to resolve this case.
State, I know that you weren't the Assistant State Attorney assigned to the case yesterday. There was some representation that the reason for the no bonds was based on a predating offense. I have attempted to reach out to Judge Epperson and quite candidly been unsuccessful. The court on its own initiative is going to consider bonds in these traffic offenses. The offense being failure to have a required endorsement on a driver's license. And then 20 CT 1628 and 20 CT 1627, which I believe were no valid driver's license and another low-level traffic misdemeanor. The court's going to set bond on each case in the amount of $1,000, and I will appoint the Office of the Public Defender as to each case.
Your Honor, does that mean I can bond out?
Yes.
Thank you.
Do we have any additional court dates for Mr. Ezekiel?
Yes.
Mr. Ezekiel, you have some court dates in front of Judge Epperson coming up.
April 21st at 8:30 a.m.
The 21st of April?
Correct.
Thank you.
All right. State, I took a plea yesterday on a trespass for a gentleman that was sleeping behind a shopping center. I took a plea on a case that did not yet have a information file. If I give you that case number, can you look into that and make a determination as to whether an information could be filed?
Yes.
All right, thanks. The case number is 2021 MM470. Ms. Reed?
Yes, Your Honor.
The court resolved a case yesterday with a time-served plea to trespass in an occupied structure or conveyance for a gentleman that was sleeping behind a shopping center. It was a 2-day credit for time served offer. I did that in advance of any information being filed. Mr. Sullivan was released. The state's going to be looking into filing an information to complete the loop here, and I would anticipate, but I won't speak for the defense, that there would be no objection to any timing requirements or waivers of defect.
Yes, Your Honor, there's no objection from defense.
All right, thanks. We'll anticipate that information
Yes, Your Honor.
be considered. Thanks. That concludes the initial appearance docket.
The case that you were just speaking about, was that Davis Jean? Because that's one case that we haven't called as of yet.
No, that was Christopher Sullivan.
Okay, we do have
We don't have the gentleman that you just referred to. We don't have a packet for him.
He was on the IA docket that I was given, and he's here for him only.
Okay, the clerk's office was instructed to take him off the IA docket.
Okay. Do you have any information as to why, so I can just inform the defendant?
It says bond was posted.
Said that he posted his bond.
Okay, I will inform him. Thank you so much, Your Honor.
Yeah, he may have posted a bond, and the paperwork's just making its way through. All right, thank you. That's going to conclude our initial appearance docket. The law enforcement officers that are present for warrants, we're going to meet in the back. What's up? They can all come back.